From documents to DNA know-how and research tips and hacks to solve your family history mysteries, at Family Tree we bring together many experts from the genealogy world to help you. Here we catch up with a few of the fascinating family historians who contribute to Family Tree. David Annell, genealogist, speaker and Family Tree Academy tutor.
So Dave, I was just wondering whether you could quickly share with us whether you think there are any key skills or approaches that a family historian should have under their belts to feel like they're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I think to remember is that it's supposed to be fun. We're doing this because we can do it, not because we have to do it. But if we're going to do it, we might as well do it properly. And I think one of the most important things is to get to know the records that we're looking at, to understand how and why they were created in the first place, and to understand really that it wasn't with us in mind that these records were created, that they were there for official purposes. So reading up on your sources is quite important, just to get to understand what it is you're looking at, what the records are actually telling you.
Michelle Leonard, DNA detective.
So Michelle, for you though, it's not a question of whether it's DNA or family history paper trail research. You love weaving them together, don't you? So can you tell us a bit about why you like putting it all together?
I think I just love the detective angle of it. I think all of us genealogists secretly want to be detectives in some way. We just love unraveling mysteries, don't we? And like you say, it absolutely is the combination of both traditional research methods and newer DNA expertise that gets to the bottom of these tricky mysteries that previously couldn't be solved. I think that's what gets me the most, that these mysteries have been there for so long that we've been looking at them. You know, somebody may have a birth certificate for a grandparent with just a blank for the father's name, and that's something that they could never find out. It could never be revealed to them, and they're always going to have that quarter of their tree that's blank. And when you love building your tree and you love finding out about your ancestors, that's a really big hole to have something like that. And then suddenly DNA comes along and there's this hope that, oh my God, maybe I could fill that blank in. And I just love filling those blanks in. I liken it to working on giant jigsaw puzzles, but it's one of those ones that is tatty and old. The pieces have been thrown in a plastic bag in the back of an attic, and there's bits missing. You don't have the original picture. And then suddenly you bring it out and you try to piece it together. And as soon as you start to get one or two pieces on the board, the picture starts to emerge a little bit until you can finally put it together. And yeah, I love puzzles, really.
Jane Shrimpton, speaker and photograph dating specialist.
You must have seen thousands of vintage photos, and what is it that you enjoy studying about these lovely old pictures?
Oh, yes, I have seen thousands, probably tens or hundreds of thousands. I think what strikes me is that a lot of them are the same in some respects. You can sort of draw out similarities. There are sort of genres of photograph and, you know, similar visual elements. And yet every single one is different as well. And that's what makes it so wonderful. And I'm still learning after all these years, really. There's often something just a little bit different in an image. And so that it keeps it fresh and exciting for me, and means that I can kind of add more, I suppose, you know, when I'm dealing with clients and readers and so on.
Yeah, all that knowledge piecing together, because the way you describe the photos and manage to home in on the date, I'm always flabbergasted by that. And it is just, you can see, it's born of many, many years of experience that you've pieced that together. And so by looking at all these photos, there's lots of other beautiful fashions in them, aren't there? Have you got a favourite fashion era that you really enjoy?
I think I probably appreciate any photograph that shows really gorgeous fashions or really interesting fashions for its time. But my own personal favourite is the 1910s, and that obviously includes the First World War period as well. It was a really pioneering and transitional decade when dress historians tend to look back on that period as marking the start of modern fashion. It's when hemlines began to rise, never to really go back to the floor again. It's when some of the more extreme corsetry and the sort of exaggerated silhouettes start to tone down, and we get a more natural line evolving. So it's sort of modern and fresh and becoming more comfortable, but also there's some very stylish elements as well. So whilst all the sort of frills and flounces start to disappear, you get some really interesting tailoring, lovely sleek lines, some interesting styled hats and so on. So it tends to be sort of shapes and two-dimensional features rather than the frills and flounces, and I quite like that more subtle approach.
Chris Patton, genealogist, blogger and speaker.
So Chris, you've got a really British family history, haven't you, with lots of Scottish and Irish content, but you've also got lots of international links as well. And was this part of the inspiration to make you want to share your family history online?
I think the reason for sharing the family history online is to put it out there and use it as bait in some ways to see what other family members around the world might be able to latch onto and to come back to me to tell me more about my family. So when I first started my research, I didn't know a lot about my family. And it was only by beginning to make inquiries and getting to speak to people in England and Scotland and in Ireland and in Australia even, that I was able to pull together certain clues to even just get me started on my family tree. We didn't know a lot until I started digging, but I had to ask a lot of questions, throw a lot of stuff out there and wait for it to reel in some answers for me. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's a very effective way of using what you find to further find information. You can almost weaponize your family history, arm it, throw it back out and see what else it'll bring back to the party.
Yeah, what you said makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because you often think of ourselves as detectives when we're doing a family history, and you are retaining that thing of like talking to people. That's kind of people. You can't have family history without people, can you? So it makes really good sense what you've just said. Do you have a kind of a personal favourite thing that you like about sharing your family history online, like a way you like going about like getting the word out again back to your family, so all your discoveries, sharing them out again?
I think the way I would say that it's most effective to be able to put your stuff online is to try and tell a story with it. So if you're just putting dry facts onto a database, there are a lot of databases out there and people get very bored very quickly. But if you can type a little story and maybe blog it or include it even on a database in the notes section, just have a little story for someone to read, people respond to stories. And that's what we're trying to create as a story. But the more detail that you add into that, the more that you put it out there, the more that people will respond to it if it's a good story well told, even if it's only a short story well told, but it's something that they didn't know about that is just a bit more interesting than just a birth date, a marriage date and that kind of thing. So just be a wee bit more creative about it sometimes when you put stuff out there and people will react.
Mary Evans, genealogist, speaker and brick walls specialist.
What's really struck me about watching you solve the brick walls, and I don't think I'm any better at it having watched you after all these years, but you quite often you'll use those key records that we all use, so the census and the birth, marriage and death records, and somehow you magically managed to find ancestors that have eluded the rest of us. So have you got any tips on how to make these core records work harder for us?
I think I try lots of different ways. I try different websites, I try different searches, and I just keep going. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Usually if I get stuck, I leave it for a little while, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, come back to it. And often then, there's a little eureka moment.
So definitely perseverance as ever, isn't it? And playing
perseverance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Simon Wills, author, speaker and maritime history expert.
For instance, let's choose one of your topics. How did you get into maritime history particularly?
Well, my own family can trace their maritime roots back to the 1590s. So when I first started researching my own family tree, I really wanted to get back to Elizabethan England because I just liked that period of history. And I've just kind of scraped into Elizabethan England with my sort of oldest ancestor I can find. He was a fisherman in Poole in Dorset in 1590, and all my sort of subsequent ancestors, all his descendants, they were all maritime people. They were in the Royal Navy, the Merchant Navy, they were coast guards, they were in customs and excise, all sorts of things. And I started researching my own ancestors, and people started to say to me when I helped them, you ought to write a book about this because people don't know these things. And it all kind of went from there, really.
Paul Chidix, blogger and collector of genealogy stories.
One of your first columns you covered a tiger. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the first time a tiger has ever been in Family Tree magazine. And can you say about one of your favourite stories, perhaps, that you've uncovered recently?
The tiger is definitely up there in the top, probably top 2 or 3 stories, because it is so rare. And when you look at it in a bit more detail, because it was spotted in the newspaper archives, and if you read the full article, they were trying to transport a tiger with a low-sided goods vehicle. Now, just the words low-sided and tiger together in the same sentence is asking for trouble. Another good story that I found was, it was in the actual Dubrovnik archives, and it was a 15th century manuscript. And again, I found the picture and tracked it down and found the guy that took the picture and found the archive. And it was a great document, and it had a load of cat paw prints literally walking across the documents. And I thought, anybody that's got a cat in their home that uses a computer will really empathise with that guy, although it was 400 years ago.
Karen Evans, DNA advisor in Family Tree.
You've been a family historian for many years, haven't you? So what do you love about DNA and what it can add to our kind of family history research, that bigger picture?
I think really it kind of adds that added element of sort of, for me, it verified what I'd already done. Because obviously, as you say, I've been doing it for many years. So the fact that when my dad's and my mum's and everyone else's DNA came back, and it kind of said, yeah, the tree that you created is the tree that you are from. So that kind of makes you feel that your research is all worthwhile, because I think a lot of people, quite rightly, we say about making sure that our research is as comprehensive as it can possibly be, and to make sure we've got as many records as we possibly can. But we all know that our ancestors they can tell fibs, and either by omission or by perhaps, but not by knowing, that they can give false information. And I think that the DNA test in some respects for myself basically said, yeah, the tree that you're making is the tree that you're on. But also there was some elements, I think, which most people have. They've either got brick walls or they've got some kind of illegitimate ancestors. And there was a chance to break through that, which is, of course, really exciting. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to break through something that's been bugging me for 20 years. So that's the opportunity to do that, which is fantastic. And then also it's really been finding things out that are unexpected. So yes, it has been hunky-dory, but there's been little bits. It's like, oh, I think there's a little bit of a mystery there to solve further back in my tree. And I think with DNA, it's that kind of excitement, tempered with, I think you've always got to be thinking that you never know what it's going to turn up.
Diane Lindsay, Family Tree columnist and family history tutor.
So Diane, stories and tutoring about family history, that's what you're all about, isn't it? So over your time tutoring people, what is it that you enjoy about teaching people and getting them more into their family history?
Well, I think I think the first thing is that it's lovely to be with a group of people with the same interests and the same desperation to do a little bit more. You're never without something to talk about, even if you forget your notes, you can flannel it, because everybody's got a question that you can answer. So it's just a lovely thing to do. But the nice thing to do is to surprise people that haven't done very much with just what's available out there, and how easy it is, really, if you've got the patience and you know what to do, how easy it is to find so much these days about your family history. Years ago, you sort of, when I started teaching, it was just do this, do that, do the other. But now it's so wide and broad. You could go on forever, that you never finish. You never run out of things to say. And it's seeing people, the delight when they find something new, even if it's ever so tiny, a little crumb, and the whole group shares in it. It's a sharing thing. I think that's what I like about teaching family history, and the whole family history thing altogether is sharing.
Rachel Bellamy, the Deputy Editor on Family Tree.
So, Rachel, family history might be dealing about the past, but there's always a wealth of news, isn't there? And what sort of thing do you think makes a good family history news story? What sort of family history news story do you enjoy getting?
I like something that I haven't seen anywhere else, so I might feel like I'm getting a bit of a scoop, some information that I haven't seen elsewhere. I also think it's got that personal angle, so it's about people rather than things, so that we can relate to how our ancestors might have lived their lives, what it was like in days gone by. And also I like if there's something that I can follow up and research myself, so the news story might give me a place that I can visit, a website that I haven't heard about, so that yes, I can enjoy reading the story, but then there's further opportunity to learn. I can go away and put that on my to-do list to follow up later.
Matthew Hill, Associate Publisher of Family Tree.
Yes. So back to the mag, back to Family Tree and all the things we do. What have you got in the pipeline for the coming year?
Well, as I mentioned, we've done a lot of webinars and online learning in the past couple of months. Obviously, with lockdown in the UK and across the world, we've seen a huge increase in online activity and also subscriptions to the magazine. That's the print edition and digitally. So we're constantly developing the magazine, bringing new features, or rather you are, Helen, as the editor, so it's fantastic. And then the digital edition, we're adding video, audio, that kind of thing. And then online learning, as I say, we're looking at different conferences. We've held some in the past with Family Search, just in the last couple of months, which have been hugely popular. So we're looking at doing more of those. And really, one of the most exciting things, which I can kind of hint at, is more of a kind of a subscriber benefits on our website, so some kind of membership that we're working at the moment. So we've also got some other really exciting projects that I can't mention as yet, but the thing to do is to sign up to our newsletter. So if you sign up there, we'll send you a regular update once a week with offers and news, tips, that kind of thing, and we'll keep you updated via the newsletter.
Sounds cool. Thanks, Matt.
Family Tree magazine is published in print and digital editions, available around the globe. We also publish family history guides and hold online learning events. Find out more at www.family-tree.co.uk.